I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which this episode is being recorded and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Welcome to Can I Get a Refill? The podcast that offers a nurturing and inspirational space for honest and open discussions around career aspirations, wealth creation, motherhood, healthy relationships with others and the self, as well as an emphasis on physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Join us for lighthearted, authentic chats with like-minded women, as well as more in-depth discussions with industry professionals to support your ambitions and heal old wounds, as we empower you to regularly fill up your own cup. I'm your host, Steph Bruno-Newton, singer, writer, podcast host, mum, and recovering people pleaser. Thank you for pressing play today, and now let's get into the episode. Hello and welcome back to the Can I Get a Refill podcast. We have a very special episode for you today, talking all things fitness and mindset with Coach Josh Annesley. Josh, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Steph. It's an absolute pleasure.
I'm very excited. I know you personally through my husband. He used to work in a gym and you were a trainer there. And
the great Alan.
He is a wonderful person. And we were having a chat the other day and I was like, really need a fitness episode. And he's like, Josh, you got to get Josh in.
Oh, man.
Really excited. And as I was just saying to you.
It makes me feel so good, like so humbled to hear that. It's
well,
good.
You're a wealth of knowledge because Alan's like, no one is more researched than him because this is my personal opinion. There's two types of PTs.
Yeah.
There's the ones that are there to look good, do a few bicep curls and pick up chicks.
Yeah.
And then there's the ones that
have been me at one stage in my career.
Yeah, it's an age thing. And then there's ones who are really just interested in like the long-term fitness. And I used to also be a club manager of a gym very briefly, and I had a PT there who was a little bit older, and his member base, his clients were a bit older. And I'd be, working out, and I looked so fit back then. His clients in their 60s were so much fitter than me when I was watching some of the mobility things they were doing. I was like, wow, like it just makes you. And then at 4 p.m, all the young, this was in Bondi Junction, so all the young backpackers had come in, they'd chain smoke out the front, and then they'd walk in and do all their weights. Like it was just the different member base. You know what I mean? Like, are you training for the aesthetics or are you training for your fitness? So
yeah. I think that comes in different stages as well, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah, like
once you
stages.
have a family and you sort of look at your health and your fitness and
So true. And I think even from like as you spoke about women, like you guys are going to go through different stages of what's important and what's motivating you to get into the gym and train. And same for men, you know what I mean? Even once we have children, our mindset changes a little bit, and it goes about being not just to look good for women or whatever, but to
it's so
be
different.
Stronger, fitter, healthier for your kids, for your wife. Everything.
Funny you say that. I read something. No, I heard in a podcast the other day. I said to Alan, "Are you aware that I didn't realize that his testosterone, like men's testosterone, drops once you see your child, and if they sleep in the room, it drops even further. And we're in a one-bedroom apartment." And I said to Alan, "I'm sorry,
are you
but
serious?
lifting weights balances that out." But so here's my theory.
The modern day man has no hope.
Look, I said all my favorite music artists, I'm like, their music always goes boring once they have kids because they're not like angry at men and they're, they're the songs I like. And then they're just, calm and grateful. And I'm like, oh, the music's so boring. And I said, sports stars, I find that they have a temporary lull, males as well. So I'm a big tennis fan. And when the Australian Open was on a few weeks ago, Daniel Medvedev, who's always in the finals, I said to Alan, watch him because he's just had a baby. Bombed out really early because his testosterone's probably dropped and his priorities have shifted.
Wow.
So you do. And look, when I used to do singing gigs and be on stage in midriff tops, I was training so hard because I wanted to look good.
Yeah.
Whereas now as a mum, it's not about that, but I need that energy and that ongoing, fitness and endurance to be the best mum I can. So it has absolutely shifted.
It's a journey.
It's a journey.
It is, and you've got to realise it. Like people go, it's so much about being what's right and what's wrong. And what's optimal and what's not optimal. But it's not about that.
No.
It's a journey. It's about finding what works for you at that particular stage of your life. You know what I mean?
And as you said before we started recording, consistency.
Consistency.
Huge. So we've already jumped straight into it, but we're just saying hi. So let's start by tell everybody a little bit about yourself and the work you do within the fitness industry.
Well, I've been a coach for 28 years, 29 years, yep. So I'm 45 years of age, and when I started my career, it probably really wasn't a career in Australia, so to speak.
Yeah, not as much back then, was it?
No, not at all, really. You know, it wasn't something that people really did full time.
No.
You know, so, and I fell into it because I was boxing.
Yeah.
And the guys around the boxing gym at that stage, I was with Johnny Lewis, who's arguably one of Australia's greatest fight trainers, and like my mentor in life was a man called Frank Keane.
Yeah.
And they were doing a little bit of coaching and training at that stage, and I was only like 17. I just started to see it and what they were doing.
It's an impressionable age for a young man too, right?
Well, you know what? It is, and you don't, back then we didn't have the access to information we have today.
No, yeah.
We didn't have
You
it.
couldn't
So
Google
and now I
anything.
realise that was my vision. I was establishing a vision via the people I was associating with, hanging around, you know what I mean? So
You're a product of your environment.
yeah, so true. And the thing was, the reason I got into boxing was because I had gone off the tracks and was getting into trouble. So I was drinking, I was taking drugs, I was getting arrested, I was doing breaking enters. I was only like 14.
Yeah.
And I come from a good home, but it was the people I was hanging around.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what
You're
I mean? So I was
influenced.
doing all that type of stuff. And then I got forced to go to a boxing gym.
Yeah.
I got the shit punched out of me.
Yeah.
And that just started to change my attitude and my life. And then you don't know back then, like, we didn't have access to information with today. So setting goals, having a vision, it was there, but it wasn't really there. It was just something you did unconsciously, you know what I mean? So I started to see these fighters and these trainers and everything. I was like, you know what? This is how I want to be. I don't want to be I don't want to take drugs. I want to do that stuff. I want my life to go in that direction.
You want a purpose. May I ask
Purpose.
you, when you were getting into trouble, did you have any extracurricular activities?
I stopped. I was playing footy, like we all play footy growing up and everything, but I stopped playing footy because I just didn't really enjoy it at that stage of my life. And
Okay.
and then, you know, a few things had happened with certain groups I was hanging around, and I got sort of forced out of those groups, and I stumbled across a new group of friends, and that group of friends was largely based with, like, to be honest with these kids they were single family, parent homes.
Yeah. It's tough.
They were living in housing commission.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That type of stuff. And so I don't know, it's so interesting how they were good kids. They were just different kids. You know what I mean? There's nothing to say they weren't, but we were just doing naughty stuff, you know what I mean?
Well, you probably, when you got a single parent too, sometimes you're getting a little less attention. And I did an episode with Alan's business coach, and he was saying everyone's walking around with an invisible sign on their neck saying, notice me, love me, you know, give me attention. We all want it, even when we say we don't. We want to feel valued. We want to feel seen. And sometimes if you're not getting it, that's when you act up as a cry for help for, well, now they'll notice me.
Yeah, man. And Steph, the thing that was good for me is that even though I'd have craziness outside of the house, when I went home, because my mum and dad were together, I lived in a good, loving environment. I'd have stability at home.
Yeah.
So these kids would be
Not
crazy on
everyone
the
does.
street, go home, and they wouldn't have that stability at home. You know what I mean? So then me getting taken to a boxing gym changed my life, like, in that respect, and then falling back into rugby league and pursuing my dreams and everything, you know, and then that's just what led me into health and fitness. And then I was overseas playing rugby league in France.
Wow.
But I knew that I knew that it wasn't for me. I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'll do this and that'll be it, because I know I'm not going to come to Australia and play first grade or anything. But I said, I'm going to open a gym when I get back to Australia.
Yeah.
And then when I got back to Australia, 2 weeks later, I opened the gym. And then it just continued on from there. Yeah, and that was it.
Overachiever much?
Yeah, just
So
just
quick.
when you just have a crack, you know, just have a go.
I do think that youth needs something to focus on. So I was in dancing 6 days a week. It was nothing that I planned to have a profession at. Well, I wanted to be a singer. And Alan was in footy. But I feel like when I saw the kids at school that were getting in trouble, they didn't have anything to do after school. And I feel like you've got
it's a big part of
energy
it.
to burn at that age, and it needs to be somewhere with a sense of purpose or somewhere to put all that energy. So
Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah.
And then I think what I realise now later in life is that once you've got a vision, right, it's different to goals, I believe.
yeah.
So you've got a vision, and like, say your vision when you were younger, you probably had photos of singers on your wall, and you had this idea about how you wanted to look, how you wanted to feel.
I used to stick my
how you wanted to
face
perform.
over people like Gaga or Delta Goodrem winning arias and Grammys, and it was in my book. So it was like my visualization, yeah.
But that's
yeah.
But look where it's led you, Steph.
Yeah.
Look what you've done. You've had a go at different things, and I've said and you wouldn't trade that in for anything.
No, and it's also okay to change your mind, because as I've grown and changed as a person, there was a stage where all I wanted to do was be famous, and now I'm like, I couldn't think of anything worse, and I've lost interest in celebrities, and I think it's sort of a whole smoke screen, and now I care about things that are a little deeper. Yeah. But I've had really great experiences that have helped me discover, my real interests along the way. So,
exactly, and that's because you pursued your vision.
Yeah.
And if my vision was boxing, and so I'd have a poster on my wall of boxers or footy players. I'd have affirmations all around it. My friends still talk about today. Yeah. So my mates will go.
That's uncommon for a guy, Josh. I feel like to be that open about these are the affirmations I have and these are the goals. I think that's really brave that you did that from a young age, because guys can pay each other out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, when my mates come to my house, they still talk about it now. Yeah. So I've got lifelong mates, and they still talk about the affirmations, the posters on the walls and everything. But
I love it.
I had to do it,
I think
because
Sylvester Stallone was like that when he was making Rocky. He had real visions, and
Oh, man,
Jim Carrey did that, wrote himself a check. It's part of manifestation, right? To have that vision. Yeah, you have to have a vision, because I always say it's like a roadmap. So it's somewhere to shoot, so that when your body gets there, it's like, well, this is familiar because I've been seeing it for so long in my mind.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And say if my vision was to play first grade, it didn't happen. I got close, but it didn't happen. Yeah. I wasn't good enough. But I don't care. At least I had a crack.
We're so similar.
At least I had a go. At least I did all I could. I exhausted all my potential and my every avenue. Yeah. And then I'd rather do that than sit back if you were too good and didn't have a go and go, you know what? I wish I'd had a go when I was...
Regret. There's nothing worse than regret. I did The Voice twice. Didn't get through the first time, got through the second time.
Yeah, I watched one of your things,
Never turned a chair. I sang with one of my absolute idols, Delta. I wasn't good enough to get through. But looking back in hindsight, I wasn't playing to win. I was playing... What's the word? Yeah, playing not to lose. I was playing... Just don't get embarrassed. Just don't fuck up. But I wasn't like picturing the full winning. But... it wasn't a fail at all. Do you know how proud I am when I look back at that, or me on
100%.
Millionaire Hot Seat? And neither times did I win, but fucking oath I won, because I had a go. And it was just, I felt really good about myself, because it was scary, and I pushed myself and I did something, just different.
And Steph, in the end, the story we tell ourselves is the most important story.
Yes, yeah.
You know what I mean? The way you talk to yourself, the way you look at things you did throughout your life, because... a lot of the times we're looking for, like you said earlier about being loved by other people, or looking for external
validation.
Yes. And really in the end, it's like, you know what? As long as my wife is happy, my children are happy, and my family loves me, that's all that's important to me. Now,
and if you can look yourself in the mirror and go, I'm happy with this. I did a good job. I reflected my best version of myself. When you were talking about vision, I thought something popped into my head of how sometimes it's not even a specific vision of, like the house or the career. Sometimes it's a vision of how you want to feel. And I'm tapping into that more as I get older, of how do I want to feel? Yeah. And that can just be a certain confidence in yourself.
Exactly, mate.
And then other things might add to it, but I'm really tapping more into the feelings this year.
Yeah. And I always say, look, feel and perform. So I think that's a real clear, like for me, I say, like, I know how I want to look at 45 years of age.
Yeah.
I know how I want to feel.
Which is pretty damn good for people who are only listening to the episode. You're looking very fit.
Thanks, mate. Thank you, man. And that's not my motivator, but and then how you want to feel here and here, and then how you want to perform. Yes. You know what I mean? You still want to perform. I want to perform like I did when I was playing sport. I don't want to be
proud of yourself.
Man. I don't want to be one of those guys that goes, I'm too old.
Complaining about your knees.
I'm done. That time will come. Until then, just like, just rip in and just have just enjoy it, It's short.
Have you seen Dick Van Dyke, the actor from Mary Poppins? He's like 99 in the gym 3 times a week. So
wow.
My mum had this friend into her 90s, was traveling around the world, and she sometimes you can just talk yourself into being youthful. I know that J-Lo has always said an affirmation of, I am youthful and eternal at every age.
Oh, is that what she says?
Yes.
She's doing a pretty good job.
I now say that every single morning.
She looks, I saw her last week on something. She looked great.
I think you can trick your body into anything, and everything's
Definitely.
an affirmation, even the negative stuff. So if you're constantly saying, and I catch myself,
Your mind.
my neck's sore, this, oh my God, it's just perpetuating it more and more and more. So the more that's why I do affirmations, but you can only do affirmations for 5 minutes a day. Then the rest of the day, you got to really keep up.
Take action.
And really listen to your inner dialogue. Yeah.
Definitely. It's it's so true. Like enthusiasm is contagious.
Yes.
I mean, enthusiasm is contagious in any area of life.
Yeah.
And how you watch when your kids get older.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to project that enthusiasm. Absolutely. I always say I'm grateful. I mean, I don't say it lightheartedly. Like I'm truly grateful for the sacrifice that have been made to give me the life I have today. When we went to Bali just recently, my kids go, wow, we're so lucky, Dad, and I know why you say we're grateful.
Filtered down to
I
them.
said, darling, that's why you think I just say it for the sake of it. I said, but sweetie, you live in the best country in the world. Your chances of being born into this country and this family are slim.
Yeah.
So lucky,
As a parent, you look at what's happening overseas and it breaks your heart because every child deserves that opportunity to be happy. And so
and like when you hear people talking about the war in Australia, they're talking about who's right and who's wrong.
Yeah.
I'm just like, mate, feel sorry for people that have to live like that.
Yeah, I choose not to engage. I stopped watching the news a while ago, and then occasionally it'll come on and I'm like, no wonder I stopped watching it. Like,
Get it out of your life.
Yeah.
Man. We want to be informed.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than people that are so over-opinionated.
Well, that's what I always say. Like, you can get the news online and choose what you click on, but if you're watching it, you're absorbing it.
Yeah.
So, I try not to do that. We just really have a lot of quiz trivia shows on. It's my jam. And Leo's like, I don't let him watch TV, but he stares at the chaser and I'm like, yes, kid, you get smart.
Yeah, man, for sure. That's it. You're better off.
What is some advice? This is a good time to talk about it because I think people start the new year really strong with their fitness and their health and then they taper off as it gets to February and March. So what is some advice you could give to someone struggling to find the motivation to begin or maintain a regular exercise routine?
So I think one of the most important things is to take action. You know what I mean? Like you've got to start somewhere. It doesn't mean what you do in that first week is what you do in your 8th or your 12th or your 20th week or a year down the track, but you've got to start. So whether it's a walk, whether it's going to a gym.
Because we procrastinate.
Big time.
Yeah.
And we're exposed to so much information these days. There's so much information about what's right, what's
it's overwhelming.
What builds endurance, what builds muscle, what's the optimal
It's always
way to live.
changing too.
It does, and it really does. And I think you've just got to say, sort of block out the noise, focus on like doing one thing at a time and doing that really well, and then adding something to it. Do one thing really
Alan
well.
had very similar advice.
He did?
Yeah. Well, he was
So
talking
true.
about with his clients when he would get people who just never exercised or weren't. Alan was very picky. He only wanted clients that really wanted to be there.
I remember when we were working together.
And he would get, when I first met
that.
him at the gym, he'd get like guys in there who were never trained and he's like, oh, this guy's such a punish. But he's like, if I give them all these changes, they will not come back because it's overwhelming because it doesn't come second nature to people like you and I who just get up, get dressed and go to the gym. It's just, it's normal. So he would say, I would just be like, drink an extra 1 to 2 glasses of water per day for the next week. Then the next week we'll implement something.
advice.
So it's like habit stacking like that book.
Yeah.
So it can be overwhelming if you're trying to make too many changes, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly right, Steph. Like if you try and do too much at once, it's probably not going to work long term. You know what I mean? And it's like like they say relationships that burn really hard initially, they fade out real quick.
Oh, it's so true.
Yeah, so you do.
They talk about that, the passion scale. Don't go for the 10 out of 10. Go for a solid 7 or 8 and then build the foundation.
Definitely.
I actually really agree with that now that I'm at this age.
And that's, you realise it, because there's certain, not being rude, but there's certain people that you want in your life. Yeah. There's certain people that you just like, whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and then that's the way it goes. But, and then focus on what you can control.
Okay.
A lot of the times in life where we're worried about certain things and not going to plan or this happens or that happens, like block out that noise, focus on what you can control.
Okay.
And I truly believe that when it comes down to it, we live in this great, you can control what you eat.
Yes.
You can control whether you're trying to, even if you get held up, the bub's sick or something, you train in your lounge room.
I was just saying, I pivot. It's, I might have planned to do a Pilates class or a run at the gym that day, but I ended up doing a circuit in the living room, but it was still movement. And I still felt well.
That's exactly right. I mean, I've got 2 daughters, and we went through that stage. My wife had her own business at that stage, and she was super busy. I was super busy running my business.
Yeah.
It's relentless. So I had to fit in. My exercise wasn't where I wanted to be.
No.
It wasn't where it is now, but I just made it work. I fit in wherever I could. I made it all work. Wasn't sleeping, wasn't doing anything. So you just got to focus on what you can control.
But I think that comes down to a bit of a kindness and patience with yourself. So I used to get so angry if I had this plan for this big workout and it didn't work out. It is what it is. And motherhood makes you realize you just have to, or parenthood in general, you have to pivot. It might not always get what you had, like a year ago. Listen, my routine was like wake up, incense, meditate, yoga, go to the gym, a long walk. Like, oh my God, if I can fit in 30 minutes of a circuit, I'm happy. It's like so different.
Mate, it is so true.
But it's so rewarding. Like I'm enjoying this part of like Leo's already crawling. Like it's so fleeting that
goes so quick.
So fast that I really want to be engaged and enjoy it. And like you said, I can only control what I can control. And
and it's funny you see all this stuff now about optimal living and the optimal morning routine and everything. And when I hear these guys and women talk about things, they're like, okay, so you get up, like you said earlier, you know what I mean? You meditate and you do this, you get sunlight in your eyes and everything.
But they might not have a 9-to-5 job. They might not have children. 8 to 9
hours of sleep. I'm like, have you got a
who the fuck's getting
like,
8 to 9 hours of sleep?
Mate, I'll get 6 hours at night of sleep.
Yeah.
6 hours a night.
I'm happy if I see the 6.
I have to drive to work in the dark. I have to train people to 1 in the day. And then, like, it just doesn't work like that. But you don't need all that stuff to function optimally, to perform at your best. You know what I mean? Like,
well, that's good to hear because that can.
I believe
it
anyway.
can get in your head, like, oh, I'm going to die young because I'm not getting this much sleep. But we're doing the
sleep
best we can. Yeah,
I mean,
but it'll also come back. Like I'm seeing friends who have started having kids a little bit earlier. Now that the kids are in the school, my friends are really getting back. She's just looking so great and getting a bit more sleep and a bit more rest. So I'm like, I'll be back there. It's okay. Like this period's really brief.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. It is really brief, you know what I mean? And, I'm at that stage now. My kids are a little bit older. My oldest now she's more engaged in her friendships than she is with her mum and dad.
Yes.
So she's just out of that stage now, whereas my youngest.
But weren't you at that age? It's 15 onwards for me.
Mate, I was almost in jail at her age.
Okay.
So she's
doing a bit better.
She's doing a lot. Man, I'm so like, I'm grateful, mate.
Yeah,
she's just like, I think to myself at that age, I'm like, oh my God, mate, and it's, you're only still a baby, they're young.
Yeah.
But I think, like, and also like one of the things, Steph, like I think embrace a bit of grittiness, mate. Like embrace a bit of like search for a bit of it, like it's like, I don't want to I'm not talking about vaccines, but what I mean by a vaccine is that you've got to expose yourself to something to build a bit of resilience in life.
I like that. That's a good analogy.
I really believe it. So like,
are you going to break into the Rocky of it's not how hard you hit, it's how hard you get
hit. Get back up. Mate, it's so
that's
true.
My standard
It is, man.
soundtrack when I'm running on the treadmill.
It's the Italian in you,
Every
mate.
Italian worth their salt has the Rocky soundtrack for the gym.
Rocky, I swear.
But it is so true.
Man, embrace a bit of grittiness, man. Embrace it. Want to be put through. I'm not saying getting put through lack of sleep is good, but embrace it. Get on with your day. Attack the day. Still make sure you're the best mum you can be, best partner.
Yeah.
It's friggin' hard work, man. It is a challenge, but it's such an honour to be a parent and do your best job at it too.
Yeah.
So
I really like that embrace the grittiness, but it's even like something like the cold plunge, like. That feels like shit, but you feel amazing after it. So that's embracing a bit of grittiness. Yeah. I said I'll never do it because I hate my muscles. With my condition too, I don't like my muscles being cold.
Yeah.
But with I do infrared saunas, which is just my 2 most hated things are being claustrophobic or being hot. So I thought I would hate them. The first second I was like, this is my place. Yeah. But where I go at the Loft in Cronulla, the Pilates studio, in the thing now they have like the plunge pool. Now I can't say no to anything free, Josh. I have to say. So I was like, all right, I give it a go. And I heard that it's good for your metabolism and weight loss and postpartum
cold
and
plunges and everything.
And going from one to the other.
Contrasting.
The contrast. So I'll do like 10 minutes of the heat and then I jump in.
Yep.
And each time I hold it for a few seconds longer and go like a little bit deeper down. But I like psych myself into it. And if I wait, I don't do it. But if I just go 1, 2, 3 and go, and I feel great.
Yeah,
and I
you
always
do.
think Tony Robbins does it every morning. So I'm like, if it works for him.
And it's all about exposure, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I did the Wim Hof course back in the day. And
Did you?
Yeah, I did the course. And I mean,
Okay.
it was all about 3 minutes in here and everything.
Yeah.
And the first time we did the course, someone almost,
Don't say heart attack, cardiac arrest.
mate,
Because that is a bit of a fear.
hypothermia.
Oh, no.
They were like, we had to like basically get them in like a shock blanket and like, you know what I mean?
That's
I
a
wasn't
bit of
running
a
the
fear
course.
for
Luckily,
me.
it was another guy running the course. And he was that uneducated about it all. He didn't really know what to do. So he'd done the Wim Hof course, but he didn't really understand first aid and if how people respond.
So you came in to the rescue?
Well, we did. There was a few trainers there and people that have been trained in it. But the point of it is that you're building up that stress response. So even cold water is a stress on your body.
Yes.
So you're inducing a stress to get a
Yes.
response.
Yeah.
So you don't have to go for 3 minutes straight away. Even if you did 20 seconds,
I build up.
slowly build up, mate.
Yeah.
Because your body's going to adapt and respond to it, you know what I mean? So
I really like that because I take ashwagandha and ginseng because they're an adaptogen to help you respond to stressful situations. The same
Definitely.
thing because I have a tendency to have anxiety and to go into panic mode when things go wrong. So I really want that. That's what I'm working towards. That. Yeah, adapting to stressful situations. So that's why I do it.
And the good way to do it is to just put, I believe, is to put yourself through these little things, you know what I mean? Like, you know, for me now, I still go sparring once a week. I still box once a week, but I go sparring, right, with professional fighters.
Yeah.
So as I'm
I
driving
love
to the gym, as I'm driving to the boxing gym, I try to talk myself out of it nearly every week.
Really?
I go, what are you fucking doing this for? Like, you should be, like, you could be doing other things or whatever. You're 45, you never doing this. But I know the outcome is always worth it. I go there, I get the shit punched out of me. I put myself through that stress and everything and that sort of that fear of, and really it's nothing to be scared of, you know what I mean?
No.
But it's because I love it so much. I've been doing it for so long. But you just do it to yourself. You go through that process. The outcome's always worth it. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So well said. Okay, how much of an impact do you think nutrition and mindset have on performance and physical fitness? So they all links in the same chain.
Massively. Hugely. And you probably know a bit about that. And you're drinking kombucha now.
I like to put good things in my body. Yep.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and it's like, so there's a million different diets out there, right?
Yeah.
And I've done my precision nutrition course. I'm not a qualified nutritionist. I'm not going to sit here and talk to that. But after 28 years of being an athlete and a coach, I've tried nearly every different diet there is out there. And I think some things will work for others that won't work.
True.
Yeah.
True.
You've got to find what works for you. It's that journey we spoke about, you know? But if you think about your gut health, right?
It's huge. And as you know, I work for the wellness company, The Beauty Chef, that creates
Exactly.
products for gut health. And now it's just so huge and it's a real
One of the
hot
best
topic.
supplement
Oh.
companies out there, and I love their stuff.
Great,
you know
great
what I
to
mean?
hear.
And if you're with that vagus nerve, with the link between your central nervous system, your brain, and your gut, you got more serotonin in your stomach than you do in your brain.
But no one knew this a decade ago. No one was
they
talking
didn't.
about it. Yeah.
But even people today that go on, like, say they want to do the carnivore diet, for instance, you know what I mean? I've seen so many people respond really well to it. They've gone off their gout medication and their certain things. They've lost weight. They've lost weight because they decreased their calorie intake.
Yes.
And they're eating better in general.
Yeah.
Maybe their gout's improved because they've cut out all the other stuff, the alcohol, the fatty, the
Alcohol
sugary
adds to gout
foods,
hugely.
all that type of stuff. So maybe that's why, but they're missing a major component of gut health.
Yes.
You can't get through just
You need cruciferous
eating pure.
vegetables. You need. This is my personal opinion, but that's the research from my company. Yeah.
Well, it's true. It's very true. You know what I mean? So, and if you look at any carnivore or like primitive tribe who was living out in the jungle, they never got access to meat 24/7. You know what I mean? They'd largely eat what they got their hands on. You know, and a lot of the times that'd be legumes, nuts and seeds and like roots and stuff and berries. And then they got to kill. They got to eat a feed. They consume the meat or
But
whatever.
ancient man also only lived to about 35, so I don't know how much we should be replicating ancient
Look,
man.
no, without picking on any particular diet, but I believe there's a really strong link.
I don't like fats. I feel like it's the same with body types. I'm always commenting on posts. I'm like, women's bodies are not seasonal trends. So can we please stop talking about big butts are in, little waists are in, all that bullshit. But I also think the same with diets. I think Louise Hay, who I love immensely, always said her theory was if it grows, eat it. If it doesn't grow, don't eat it. I think the more processed foods you're having, the less healthy you're going to feel. I feel sluggish. I personally feel really sluggish.
Exactly.
You know,
your
like
awareness is up
home-cooked.
there too.
Yeah,
Steph,
yeah.
You know, like
but not
some
so much when
people
you're
are in
young.
the dark,
you don't,
mate.
yeah,
They
you
just-
don't. Well, I mean, when I was young, it was all Weight Watchers and Jenny Craig and everything was packaged and everything was calorie counting. But Alan always says the simplicity down to when people are trying to do weight loss is calories in and calories out. I mean, they're coming out with
Generally
these new
speaking,
diets. You know, like when I was young, it was fat was bad, and then it was carbs are bad, and then it's sugar's bad. And I just think you can incorporate most things. Again, this is what has worked for me over years. Whenever I've done fad things, yes, they work because it might be something like your water retention might go, but is it something I can sustain? So I like to have, you know, like a whole food diet and a range of different foods, but I focus on gut health just because it makes me feel well.
Yeah, and it's true, but you know what I mean, like gut health is so important. You know what I mean, like what you're eating, what you're drinking, it does impact your health, and if you look at all the stuff with the chemicals these days,
yeah, I know.
You know, that's even in the good food we're trying to eat.
But even in plastic bottles and stuff, like I'm really trying to. I don't even wear perfume anymore. I wear essential oils because I'm like, it's all like those endocrine disruptors and things. So I'm like,
and that's
sometimes you feel like you can't win in modern day. You know, the ultimate goal would be to have like a garden and doing all your own veggies. Yeah.
And we've been trying to do that at home recently. We're trying to get in the habit of it or get in the process of planning it and implementing
fantastic.
it. Yeah.
As you know, my dad's Sicilian, so growing up we had this huge yard and it was all the tomatoes on the wooden stakes. It was for miles.
The Italians and the Greeks.
And it smelled great. Yeah, all my Greek friends had the best cucumbers.
I remember growing up in Muscat, like there was a lot of Greeks and Italians around.
Yes, yeah.
Every garden was full of tomatoes
and it smelled good.
Yeah, man, it was so true. You know.
Well, you look at they always talk about Sardinia, how there's centenarians where they lived over 100 and they're not having much meat. They're having like lots of veggies, lots of beans, lots of fish, some pasta, but they're walking everywhere. They're relaxed. They chew and eat slowly. They for rest and digest. They sit and eat meals with family, but it's also community connection. So that's something that we really just don't have. And you hear that from people who've moved here from other countries. They're like, they find it hard to make friends because we all have our little cliques and we're not sort of engaging with the community. Yeah, but I do like that about Cronulla. It's a bit of a community. It's kind of like a little old beach town in a Sydney suburb. Yeah, I do like that. You see the same people when you go for the walks. I always run into my neighbours and we walk with a dog, and I do like that.
Man. But I remember as a kid, like my dad's mates would drop over whenever.
I love that.
Every afternoon there'd be like one of his mates drop over, have a cup of tea.
That's a nice childhood to grow up seeing that.
Awesome, because I was so close with all of them as well. And I'd come home sometimes. My mates would be sitting there with my dad on the lounge watching TV.
I love that. We had that a bit. My brother had a band, so the bandmates were always hanging out with my dad, and my dad would cook pasta for everyone. No, I just really like that, and I sort of feel like I'm seeing it less and less.
Doesn't happen, mate.
We're so busy.
It does not happen anymore,
It's a bit heartbreaking.
My wife's got to get 2 weeks' notice for people to come over.
That is so me. Alan's like, you're always saying that, but then you're always like, why didn't you tell me earlier so I could, I know.
She's just like, no, we've got to do this.
I'm a control freak, type A personality.
I would never invite someone over without giving at least a week's notice. I swear.
It took Alan a while to learn that, Josh, but finally gotten there. So years ago, women were always doing cardio and aerobics, and I know when I first started going to the gym, it was the men's section was the weight section and the women's section was the cardio. And I was just
when you started?
Yeah, even when I started. Well, I'm older too, so that was a little while ago.
Where was the gym at? Where was
the very first gym I went to was at Hurstville Aquatic Centre. Oh, wow. It was run by Bluefit, I think.
Yeah, but, I remember.
Actually, pretty good equipment there. It wasn't too bad.
Yeah, I worked for him for a while.
Alan did too. Yeah. Women weren't really doing strength training. It was all, in the 80s, it was the Jane Fonda aerobics videos.
Yes.
Mum used to have that. Tybo videos. I had Tybo.
Tybo, my mum.
Very rarely did women lift weights and lift heavy. And now you see it everywhere and you can see the women's bodies. And I love watching Cronulla when they had their little shorts and they were really developed quads. Yes. I'm like, if that was in when I was in high school, I would have felt a lot better about myself because I was a very muscular build.
Gotcha.
So why do you think weights training is so important for women and how often should we be strength training?
Oh, it's super important for everyone, but say with women, bone density, maintaining muscle mass. If you look at, let's look at what women are doing today. You look at like we said, it's a journey and there's such a broad range of things you can do. Mm-hmm. So some women don't like to lift heavy. Some women still have it in their mindset.
That it's masculine.
Yeah, it's masculine.
Or they'll look bulky.
I'll look bulky. I'll get bulky if I do this.
I hear it all the time.
And some women very well may. They've got that ability to look like that, you know what I mean? But the majority don't, the majority of men find it hard to put on like a good degree of muscle mass, you know what I mean?
I see men look at my calves with a lot of jealousy that they were. You know
I think calves are God given. I think they're genetic. Hey, calves
Mine
are
like a Roman sculpture where they used to be real.
God. I got calves like my mother, and I'm calfless. So it's like.
But I find most men are. I mean,
Oh my God! Except Islander men. All my Tonga mates have got the best calves.
Really? They do.
Islanders have got the best calves going.
Alan's are really big. He's very proud of his.
Al's got good calves.
He very rarely wears long pants. He's very proud of his dinner plates.
Yeah. Mate, but ours pretty well built anyway.
He's good. I mean? That's why I said Leo is definitely going to be muscular because we're both quite built. I digress. Go on.
Yeah, man. So I mean, if you look at the benefits of what you get from strength training, there's so many other health benefits associated with it. But let's say like bone density and muscle mass.
Yeah, I never knew that years ago about bone density, and I'm hearing that more and more for women over 40.
Yes, super important. You know what I mean?
Can help stave off osteoporosis and things.
Okay, so then you've got all those other lifestyle conditions associated with it, you know what I mean? Like the joint condition, what is it called again?
Arthritis. Osteoporosis, yeah.
All that type of stuff, you know. I mean...
So strength training can help stave off arthritis?
Everything, you know what I mean?
Wow,
your body moving and the strength you gain, so your tendons, your ligaments, your joints, all that type of stuff, it's such an important aspect of your overall health. Now, even if you look at, like, I would train a lot of women.
Yeah.
And I would never not do any type of strength training with women.
Right. Okay.
I would never not do anything with them. And so you're going to have, like, say, your ability to get stronger in your lower body is very similar to a man's.
Okay.
Upper body is very different.
Yes,
So anatomically and biomechanically.
I look big, but I can't lift heavy with the upper body, but I can. My legs are really strong.
Yeah, so your ability to increase your strength is very, very similar to a male's in your lower body.
Okay.
Your ability to do it. So I'm not saying that you're going to be able to
I thought it was just me because I got big legs.
No, like most women, you know, you'll find that it means they're going to be very different in terms of scales of what they can lift.
Yeah.
But when it comes to upper body, for most people, it's very, very different for most women and most men, you know what I mean? So your strength variation is going to be very different in the upper body. But, I mean, I know and train, like I work with a lot of young athletes who are female.
Yeah.
And, mate, they are strong as hell.
Yeah.
They need to be lifting weights.
It's so good to see. I
Oh, my
love
God, I
watching
love
strong young women now that I just never saw, because I was in ballet. It was always look as frail as you can. And I have this personal theory. I'm a feminist, Josh, so I have this theory that women were always, we were always told to be slim, but I always felt like it was almost like a way of stay small and don't take up space.
Possibly.
And I feel like,
wouldn't doubt it.
What's wrong with taking up space and looking bigger? Like, why does it have to be the woman has to be smaller and the man bigger? I just feel like it's such an outdated notion.
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, as a father of two daughters, I couldn't think of anything worse than my daughters feeling like,
Yeah. Do you get them into like self-defense and stuff? Because Al and I always said with a daughter, we'll definitely get her into some sort of self-defense that she can take care of herself if there's any issues.
Definitely.
God
I mean,
forbid.
look, I've encouraged my children to, particularly if anything like happens with a guy or a man touching them.
Yes.
I've given them certain tips and I've told them to do certain things, but
I don't doubt that you've done that, Josh.
Yeah, I've done it. I've been very clear with it too, and I've been like, and they've been like, "Oh no, Daddy, but we don't want to do that to someone." I said, "Sweetie, not like you get put in this situation. If a man does this to you, or if he puts his hands on you,
survival instincts will kick in.
You do
and
it
they'll remember
hard
what
and
you
fast,
taught.
and I don't think he'll ever do it again." You know what I mean? So I've just said to do certain things. I'm not condoning violence or anything, but I want my children. My daughters.
My dad always taught us never start a fight, but always finish it.
Definitely, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And
you got to look after yourself. Yeah,
but
choose words when you can, but when the chips are down, you need to defend
for a
yourself.
girl with a man, like I'm taught, like so say with a female, if a man ever puts his hands on you, I said, do either one of these two things. Do it hard, do it fast. Let me think about it. I said I'll be very surprised if he ever puts hands on you again because. Generally, it's a coward that puts his hands on a woman. Always. If you're a male, you know what I mean. Josh. So, if someone fights back, I would be very surprised if you do it again. So, So I just think, whatever I can do, and I interact with a lot of young female athletes. You know what I mean? And I talk to them as a coach and hopefully as a mentor. And I think the way they feel about themselves here is probably even more important than here because this will catch up.
So much more, Josh.
Yeah.
I talk about this very openly. From 25 to 2010, I was in a very violent relationship where I was getting the crap beaten out of me, I'd say once a week for 3 years. You would look at me with my confidence, my strong physique, and he wasn't even a big guy, and you would think that would never happen. And the reason that happened, I wrote a whole article of why you should never, ever ask a survivor of domestic violence, why did you stay so long? It's a very complex issue, and the reason is because I was worked on for 6 months where a lot of my confidence was taken from me. So once it happened, you didn't feel the self-esteem or the self-worth to get up and walk, so you stay put in that.
Yeah, gotcha.
So I always said when I have a daughter, all I will teach her is to have self-esteem and to feel good about herself and ask if anything happens, how did that make you feel? Rather than, people always want to drag you out and save you, but sometimes what you really need is to know that you're just worth so much more than that. And that's why I think, got goosebumps, because I'm like, I hope no woman goes through that, but I know that these cowards really work on you mentally for so long.
It's like grooming you, so to speak.
But it is grooming. Yeah. It's the frog in the boiling water. If I was slapped on the first date, do you honestly think there'd be a second date? Hell no.
I would hope not.
But, a frog will sit in a boiling water. As it boils over time, it stays. If it jumps into boiling water, it jumps straight back out. So as, you're worked on mentally, so the mental strength and the self-worth is just so the ultimate training, far more than the physical.
Yeah, it blows me away to hear, like even I think about, like, say a husband or a wife, like it can happen in both situations.
It can. No, yeah.
I don't know why they would want to be. Why would you want to treat the person you're meant to love the most the worst?
Because it's not love, it's possession.
It's crazy, but then they go outside and are a nice person to other people, and everything. When you come home, you're an asshole. You're a dean. Like, you treat your husband or your wife terrible. You're not nice to your kids. Like, I don't understand.
It's always the reflection of how they see themselves, and they've usually come from a home that may have had abuse, or So you can feel sorry for them in a way, but you just don't want that repeated.
It's definitely true. I mean, there's that old story, whether it's true or not, it makes sense. It's like there's two twin brothers. One grows up to be super successful and a respectable member of the community. The other one grows up to be a alcoholic and a criminal. And they say, why did you turn out like you did? And they say, because of my upbringing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So one twin brother has taken that upbringing as a positive. The other one's a negative, but they blame their upbringing. You know what I mean? So it's
that's interesting.
Yeah, probably got a lot to do with people's mindset and how they interpret things and interact things. Because I know plenty of people that my dad come from a pretty not violent so to speak, but alcoholism and stuff like that. I mean, certain stages.
Huge impact when it happens
mental
in
health,
those
via
formative years.
Yeah, and he couldn't have been anything but a better human being.
Because they want to try so hard to go the other way. I was just saying this the other day, like if someone might have had a huge accident where they've lost a limb or something, you always see them go one of two ways. They either completely submit and fall into deep depression, or they really become these motivational speakers and go out and get a prosthetic limb and go running. And it's so inspiring, but I feel like, a big impactful thing in your life like that, it's the make or break. It can make you go one or two ways.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
Yeah, mindset. Nearly everything comes down to mindset, doesn't it?
Largely.
Yeah. Do you encourage your clients to track their progress? And if so, why is this important? I've always seen people in the gym with their little notebooks, and I've never done that, I will admit.
It's good.
Yeah, I should.
It can work at different stages of your training journey.
Yeah.
Definitely. For me as a coach, I do. Every client I train, everyone I train, I feel like, Steph, you know what? If I take this is what I do for a living. This is how I feed my family, and I put money on the table at home, right? So if I don't take this serious, how can I expect my clients to look at me as a professional?
Yes.
You know what I mean? I've been doing this for a long time, and I am truly grateful that people. I've had some clients for 19 years.
Wow.
Yeah, like I've had the same clients for 19 years, man. Like, I'm not saying that to boast, but I'm just saying it because
it's trust.
Every interaction with that person, I make sure it's a winner. I make sure every time I interact with them that I try and provide them with a professional. I'm not saying that, like, I might have to think on the run sometimes, but write all my programs in an iPad. I change them every 2 weeks. I update things and I track it. So, if I wasn't doing that.
Well, you're engaged, and people can feel if you're not engaged. I've gone through a couple of different psychologists, and I've had two that have just been brilliant. One I'm seeing now, and you walk in and they've remembered every person's name in your life. That they've gone through the notes before you've walked in, and how did that? And they'll mention people's names. I'm like, wow, I only said that person's name once.
Yeah.
And then I'll have had others where they're asking me stuff from scratch. And I'm like, we covered this in the last appointment. I'm paying by the hour. Like, I don't have time to recap. So I never go back because I'm like, I don't feel that you've got my best interests at heart, or I don't feel that you're engaged.
And they probably don't.
Well, they don't. It's some people with their work, it's clock in and clock out, and some people really give a shit. And anything that I'm putting my name to, I give a shit.
Yeah, yeah.
I want people to walk away saying, I would just really quickly, a few years ago, I was when I first moved in with Alan, I was working 7 days a week, multiple jobs, because I was like having to pay rent after living in my parents' house. And I was working at Cook and Phillip Park on the weekends, the pool and the gym.
In the city, yeah.
I was so tired. Like, I would nap in my car, but every day I'd write affirmations, and I was like, today I'm going to make someone have the best experience with me and make them leave feeling better than when they walked in. And I would have like a queue on my queue because people wanted to engage with me, because I would personalize it and really... And I wasn't doing much. I was on the front desk. But I just wanted to make them feel special for the few seconds that we interacted. And I truly believe that mindset, how I was treating others, is added to my life in a sense of karma and brought me better things for myself.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And you're open to it, you're aware of it.
Yeah.
You know, and people don't always remember what you say, though, but remember how you
make them feel. I just quoted this in one of my recent episodes. Yeah,
it's so true, because even what I'm doing, because I got the gyms as well, so with the group training gym that I own, I don't coach her anymore, but whenever I did, I'd try and interact with nearly every client in the class. Say if it's 30 people, I try and interact with every single one of them and provide them with something, about their life, how you going, what's happening, good technique, try and correct this, you know what I mean? So
I love that.
With the one-on-one
sessions. It's hard with the big classes, and I see big classes and people doing terrible form, and I'm like, oh,
disgraceful.
Please correct them.
And sometimes the correction doesn't fix it. It doesn't work, but as long as you're taking care of what you can, if you try and interact with them and help them, a lot of people don't want to be told, but that's all right.
That's okay, but you're making them feel seen. That's the most important thing.
It. And then with my PT clients, like I'll do 12. I'll have to do 12 sessions a day most days, but every session,
really? That's a lot.
But again, Steph, I reframe it. I'm grateful.
You get to do this.
I get to do this. I don't have to do it. I get to do this to feed my family, pay my bills, and I get to interact with. Mate, everyone I train is beautiful. They're lovely people. They've got great jobs. They've got lovely families, and I get to interact with these people every single day of life. Mate, trust me, I could have been in jail and I could be on the council. I wasn't much cut out for anything else, but I am a good trainer.
Yeah.
And I love what I do, and I'm very grateful to be able to do it. So I just try and make sure that every day I attack it like that, and I interact with people with that mindset,
I love that outlook on life. And I think, when you see people who just always look eternally youthful, but it's from the inside out. And I always say, people are always saying I look younger than I am. I mean, I had a tiny little Botox, but what I'm saying is I'm very,
you look great,
thank you, but I'm very in touch with my inner child, Steph, like the 8-year-old Steph. I let her out a lot. And I dance stupid and Leo's laughing. And I just think that taking things too seriously. And I'm emotional and I'm sensitive, but I do let my inner child out a lot. And I really think, and having a positive mindset, people like you and I that have affirmations on the wall, I just think not only are you impacting others, but it's also dictating your life and the way you look, and you emit that sort of youthful exuberance through your skin, through your eyes. So
definitely, man.
Yeah.
And if you don't take yourself too serious as well, you're being very I think being courteous of other people is important.
Very
courteous
important.
of their feelings and how they feel.
It's dropping, Josh. When you look at the way people talk to each other online, that's lacking. And with politics, it's very us versus them. And there are certain politics that I really don't agree with. But I can also be friends with someone who has opposing views. And I think we've lost a sense of humanity. We've lost a sense of humanity, and people are hating on each other for, politics in another country.
It's
and I'm like, we have to have a bit of compassion and kindness with each other. And I feel like that's dropped.
Mate, Steph, Trump's in charge in America.
Yeah.
If he impacts my life whatsoever in the next 4 years, I'll be very surprised.
I did think that. And I'm very anti-Trump's beliefs. But I'm not going to argue with someone about it if they think it's it's bringing me down if I do that. I'm just choosing not to engage. I'm in charge of my life, Josh. That's the thing. Like, I'm in charge of how I feel my day to day. And I think it's like I always quote Mother Teresa when they go, "Are you going to march in an anti-war piece?" And she goes, "Call me when there's a pro-peace rally. I'll march in that." So I just think if you're focusing on what you hate, you'll always find it. It's everything. Mindset's everything. But how we treat each other is really huge, and I think we've lost a little bit of that. I think we can up the courtesy and the manners for sure.
We can only control yourself, mate.
Absolutely, yeah. Should we be changing anything in our fitness routine as we move into a new decade of our lives? So, for instance, should someone like us in our 40s have a different routine to a 25-year-old?
Yep, definitely.
We'll pause while Josh has some kombucha.
That is so
It's so good, isn't it?
Oh, God, I love it. Kimchi, kombucha, I love it all.
Oh, I love kimchi. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, so good.
So, okay, so there's a thing, right? So remember this. Exercise is a stress that you place on your body to get a desired result or outcome.
Okay.
Okay, so if
Can you say that once more, please? We're going to drill it in.
Exercise is a stress that you place on your body to get a desired result or outcome.
That's good to hear because people might be in the middle of it going, I don't like how this feels, but it's for the outcome.
To a certain extent. And like you said, Steph, so what I did at 20, I probably couldn't do, well, to be honest with you, I probably could, but I'll just adjust a few things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like
protect your back a little more in like a deadlift or something.
Yeah, well, I mean, like you got to think about you've got a biological age, you've got a training age.
Yeah.
So if you look at so when you're really young, or even if you start when you're a little bit older, but your body can handle a lot more volume.
Yes.
A lot more amount of exercise, generally speaking. But your body, as you get a bit older, and your body adapts to stresses and stimulus and everything, you don't need to do that same what you did to your body before.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you can your body wants a little bit less, doesn't want as much volume or as much intensity or whatever, you know what I mean? You just got to find that groove. And
so is listening to your body important?
So important. You know, you've got to be open to it too. You know what I mean? So you've got to be open to adjusting and changing your mindset on things and everything, and then realizing, you know, I mean, that maybe like there's a lot of noise around at the moment about creatine. You know, I mean, I get people every day ask me about it, and
can I ask your take on it?
Well, definitely. I mean, it's the most researched supplement on the market.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, And there's all this noise about it at the moment again. You know what I mean? It was out when I was about 18. I was taking it for footy
so
and
it's not
you know
new.
I mean?
It's just sort of having
it was around
a retro
before,
comeback.
For some reason, it started making a massive comeback and people are talking about it, and all these experts are going brain health, cognitive health and all this type of stuff. I see
that there's a lot of research
Women
to
should
back
take
up.
it because they don't produce it as well as men.
Yes.
Or we don't retain it as well as men via your diet and everything. But just because there's all that noise about it doesn't mean you should take it.
Okay. Can I pause you for one moment? Alan started to look really, really like ripped and fit again. And he shouldn't because we're in the midst of parenthood like he did when he played footy. And I was like, what are you doing different? I see what you're eating. I see when you're training. He's like, I just started taking creatine. I'm like, right, I'm going to try it. He goes, you can sort of for the first 2 weeks have a bit of fluid retention and feel a bit puffy. 6 weeks in, I looked like one of the Willy Wonka characters who'd eaten something. And I was like fat feet like I had gout. And I was like, I'm done. I always try these things.
Did you track your weight or your measurements or anything?
No, but I can tell you now that things were fitting tight. It was full of retention.
Not everyone responds to it the same way. You might have a bit more retention.
I have just a very unusual body. I have a sip of Alan's coffee. I have pulse jutting out of my neck. I sweat from my palms. I get severe anxiety from a sip of coffee.
Your sweaty palms?
From caffeine. I cannot have caffeine in any way, shape or form. I have severe anxiety attacks.
Wow.
I cannot, except in Italy, they have ginseng coffee and it was fantastic for me. But I just cannot have caffeine. So why so many times have I tried to do it because other people are doing it? It does not work for me.
Yes.
The celery juice diet, I've quoted many times, it worked so great for people. It made me look 6 months pregnant and just completely blurted out. Creatine, I was huge, so puffy, felt like absolute shit. Went off it. The very next day, kilos just went off me. Yeah. It just didn't work. And I was like, oh, well, that's one less supplement to pay for. So why do I care? But it's not one size fits all. And
it's not. It's not. And I think it's, you know, like there's all that noise. Like we speak, there's so much noise about everything. I mean, and that's why people might get a bit confused. They're always looking for that
It is
greatest thing.
confusing, Josh, because there's so many different conflicting pieces of information on one thing out there.
It is, but Steph, if you focus on the most important things, the big rocks, the big golden nuggets, your training, your nutrition, and your mindset.
Yes.
Now, if you can focus on that, you can build structure.
Yes.
And consistency. Now, it doesn't matter who you are, if you're a male, a female, an athlete, whatever you're trying to do, like if you haven't got structure and consistency in your life, it's going to be really hard to maintain it, to get results, or any of that type of thing. So, it's simple. I mean, it's not sexy, and I would love to try and sell you something that's.
I think the simple things work better with me.
Bullshit.
When
I'm
I
a
strip
minimalist.
things, minimalist.
I've got a minimalist approach
back,
to getting results and getting healthy.
Yes.
And, you don't need to have all these whiz-bang supplements and all this type of crap and have the best water bottle and the latest gadget on your head.
Oh, we're consumers, Josh. Everyone's trying to sell us something 24/7.
I don't give a shit about zone 2, zone 3, whatever, mate. I know when I train hard, I know when I don't.
Yes.
I know when my clients do as well.
Yeah.
There's got to be a bit more. I don't care about the music.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit. And if you like it, you like it, whatever.
Yeah.
I can train to nothing. I can just be in my head and
Really?
just train. Yeah, but I know.
I'm different day to day. Yeah.
Definitely, mate.
Sometimes I need something to hype me up. If I'm running, I need something when
they start pumping some rap and R&B, mate, I like it, but it doesn't matter if it's on or it's not. I don't need it to train.
Yeah.
I don't need pre-workout.
I can't have pre-workout.
You wouldn't be able to, mate, if you can't have coffee.
Yeah.
But
every time I've tried something, it just hasn't gone well for me. I'm like, I keep it simple. Do you know what I do? You know what my version of caffeine is? I do lemon and ginger shots I make at home with a juicer once a week, put them in shot glasses, and occasionally I put a bit of ginseng in it. I feel on top of the world.
Yes.
I am pumped and ready to go. I feel alert. I feel awake.
I've got something in the fridge at home at the moment. My sister-in-law made it, something really similar,
But ginger just gives me the kick. That's my version of caffeine. I feel great from ginger.
Yeah, and you've got to find what works for you.
That's right.
I mean?
I'm a big believer in that. Trial things, but listen to your body. I said this in a recent episode, tapping into your intuition and how badly we outsource information now without listening to yourself. So your body knows if something's
and
agreeing
even though
with
the
it.
coffee has got health benefits associated with whatever.
But not for me.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because it is a stimulant.
Yes.
And it's highly addictive, and it can interrupt your sleep.
Well, see, Josh, I saw this graph once that showed 3 different brains. One was from drugs, one was from lack of sleep, one was from alcohol, and one was from caffeine. And the caffeine brain was very scrambled. And so if I've ever had caffeine, I actually can't focus on what people are telling me. It's like I've been out having party drugs at a rave all night.
Yeah, so that's exactly right. So I might have spiked your coffee, I don't know, but it's actually interesting you talk about.
Alan always wants a calm Steph, I can assure you. He would definitely not do that.
I was watching this TED talk the other night about psychiatrists, and there was a psychiatrist talking. He'd scanned, so he was of the opinion, right? He said psychiatrists are the only doctor that treats an organ of the human body without assessing and looking at first. They just ask you questions.
Yes.
And then they prescribe you with a drug.
Yes.
Right? So
they're not scanning.
They're not scanning. They're just going, okay, this, you got this, give you this drug. It may work, it may not. You know what I mean? So it's sort of that stab in the dark. And he goes, so he's assessed 83,000 brains worldwide. As a professional, he said, this has given me the chance to treat these people's conditions like accurately. And
I love that, because they did that on gut health, where they were, and that's why they were doing those fecal transplants, because certain people could they had rats. And, they were part of the same litter, and they injected someone, like an obese person's, the fecal transplant into this rat, and they were eating the same thing, and that rat was getting really fat, and the other one was breaking it down.
That's why you should probably do like a stool sample before you take people taking over-the-counter probiotic. And it's like...
And it might not be strains that you need.
Exactly. It's not what you need.
I really want to do all that, but I think it's very expensive. I'm actually not quite sure where to go to
I know
test all that. Please send me details. Anthony
Coulouris, she's probably the best. She's a naturopath and
Okay, send me details, because I want to get into all that. This is the year of investing in myself.
She is the lady, for particularly for females. Anthony Coulouris, she's got... she's written books. She's a naturopath. Right. She's... unbelievable.
I've gone to naturopaths for years. I get far better results from naturopaths than doctors, just for me personally. I think it's a long-term solution. We're going to end with something very, very fun.
Yep.
I'm going to fire some topics at you, and I want you to give me either a one-word response, so you can just say yay or nay.
Okay.
You ready?
Go.
Pre-workout.
Nay.
Skipping breakfast.
Depends.
Really?
Yeah.
We're going to have to pause and I want to hear why. What does it depend on, the individual?
Depends on the individual, your goals, your outcome you're trying to.
Okay. All right.
Like, yeah, I think breakfast is a man-made time of the day.
But it could be a male, female, because I never used to have breakfast and I'd go to the gym and I thought this is better.
Flat.
And then when my friend said, that can make you store the cortisol or something will rise and make you store the fat. And then she goes, have a little breakfast before, and I lost weight.
Mate,
so again,
if it works
down
for
to
you,
the individual.
yep,
but
if it
women
works
can
for
be
you,
different to men.
definitely.
Stretching and cool downs.
I'm a big believer in it.
Vital, right?
That's so important.
Can you get Alan to do it more, please?
Deregulating, and it's so important, yeah.
I totally agree.
You got to buy into it too. There's all that research out about stretching doesn't do anything now, which I don't believe it.
Well, I grew up as a dancer and stretching was vital.
You got to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I
Although
totally
you were
agree.
stretching probably
During
a
the
bit more
exercising.
aggressively and as
Heads over, feet over your head.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. I'm not going to be doing that with any clients, but I definitely still stretch and cool down.
Great. Protein.
Yes, yay.
A must, right?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Hydration.
Oh, mate, yes.
For everything.
Better than
Headaches.
food, more than food.
Yes. People who train in jeans or cargo pants.
I have seen it before.
I don't care if you've seen it. What do you think about it? Give me your honest
I think
opinion.
they should go get one of those brain scans we spoke
fucking
about earlier.
stupid.
It's nuts.
Disgusting.
I don't know. It's random.
I hate it. It's
random, but I see it. I
see
see it,
it all the
yeah.
time. There's a lady in Wanda where I train who comes from sunbaking. She's been sunbaking for decades. I'm telling you, she looks like a rotisserie chicken, and she comes in a string bikini, puts sneakers on to lift some weight.
Fantastic.
It's actually very entertaining. I think she's pretty funny. I'm going to end with one question for you. I love asking people this question, especially as we get a little bit older. If you met your 18-year-old self today, what would you tell him?
Trust the process. Trust the process, mate.
Yeah.
That's what I would say, man, because, like it's just, you're a bit unsure, you don't know what's ahead of you, but I would say trust it and just rip in, mate,
Yeah, because you don't have to know all the answers straight away, and there's something that you think you do. I hope we never do.
No.
Otherwise you're done, right?
Yeah, that's it. Be open to learning, be inquisitive, but trust the process, man.
I love that. And trust yourself. I wish I trusted myself a little bit more and my instincts. That's perfect. Josh, nailed it as I thought you would. Really useful information for everyone, and just so lovely to catch up and talk really positive mindset.
Thank you, Steph. I really appreciate it, man. The feeling's mutual, mate.
Oh, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. I know you got as much out of this as I did, and please do something this week, perhaps some exercise to fill up your own cup. Catch you in the next episode. There is no resource more valuable than time, and I thank you for spending your time with us today. Your voice is so important, and we would love to hear which topics you would like discussed in future episodes. Please reach out by Instagram at Can I Get a Refill Podcast or in our private Facebook group to let us know. If you enjoyed this or previous episodes, we would be so grateful if you could please subscribe, rate, and review to help our voices continue to be heard. Catch you in the next episode.